Okay, we're back. So let's show this first movie, and it's a speaker at the Real Truth About Health conference, and he's giving some insight in terms of what happens with the company Monsanto. Let's take a look.
The labeling law, so now you can go get a wild-caught GMO salmon, which is...
That's not the video I want to see. This one.
She gave me the following few slides when we were speaking together at the European Parliament. And these are rat livers on the right that were fed GM soy, and the rats on the left were fed non-GM soy. And you could see the changes in them. We now know that tiny levels of glyphosate cause fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which is now an epidemic with 30% of Americans experiencing it. It can lead to more serious issues like liver cancer. She also did a study where she found that the testicles of rats changed from pink to blue when they were fed genetically engineered soy. I like to leave this image on for a minute while I take a slow drink of water to burn it in the minds of people and to affect half the audience. And she also fed these rats genetically modified soy. These are female rats. They're Russian-speaking rats. Fed them GM soy starting 2 weeks before they got pregnant and continued through pregnancy and lactation, and more than half of their babies died within 3 weeks, compared to 10% when the mother rats ate non-GM soy. Well, as you could imagine, and also, by the way, they were smaller and could not reproduce. She was attacked viciously. She was a member of the Russian Academy of Sciences. She lost her job and was unable to find similar work after that. This is the kind of impact that Monsanto has around the world. I'm just giving percentage. I'm giving you a small percentage of the stories that I know about and have collected. And some of them more recently come from the Monsanto trials. I want to say I am so pleased that the results of the first 3 Roundup trials, where plaintiffs were accusing Monsanto of causing their non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that Monsanto lost and the juries awarded them $2.3 billion. Now, the judges reduced it to $190 million from $2.3 billion, but that's still a heavy chunk of change. And the last official count for the number of plaintiffs waiting for their day in court was 42,700, but unofficial estimates put it at about 100,000. So the recent evidence, the recent report now is that the lawyers are talking to Bayer, which owns Monsanto, and to do a settlement. And there's one lawyer who I know who's holding out because he thinks that he should get more for his clients. But it can go either way in the next few days. There is a trial going on now in St. Louis that will be televised. So you can go online and Google it and find out how to get to the Monsanto St. Louis Roundup trial and have incredible entertainment. And I'm going to share some of we have even more entertainment, I mean real entertainment of stories from the lead attorney who won 2 of the 3 cases. His name is Brent Wisner, and we interview him at responsibletechnology.org. Monsanto does not like Brent Wisner. It could be someone's phone. If someone's phone is not on airplane mode in the front, you may want to put it in airplane mode. In fact, putting your phone, not just turning it off, doesn't stop the transmissions. You got to put it in airplane mode before you shut it off, and then or even just airplane mode without shutting it off, and it stops the transmissions. So if you want to get some really amazing stories, dramatic, better than watching those courtroom movies, watch my interview with Brent Wisner at responsibletechnology.org, and that's where you can also make a donation as was recommended by. So one thing we know is that the Discredit Bureau that I have been fighting and reporting on really exists. It's a budget item, and it's called Let Nothing Go. That's their program. Not a single tweet not a single post, certainly not a scientist discovering problems, certainly not Jeffrey Smith writing an article. Let nothing go was their policy. It's like scorch.
Okay, so we had cut that out. The point is, you have big business, and there's profit. Of course, Monsanto, many people know about them. Has a lot of control over seeds and pesticides, and they make a lot of products related to how we grow our food. And there's a major incentive for them to dominate the food market in a certain way, because that's allows them to make more and more profits and the like. And so oftentimes, greed and power, are intermingled because, they support each other. Let me go to the next video, and then we'll.
Can I say something about that one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just want the audience to know, I mean, he started talking about glyphosate, and I talked about that to my patients, and that's Roundup. And so the Roundup we spray on the cracks in our driveway, which is an herbicide, is found in some of our foodstuffs. What we find is it when they are preparing the food to keep it dry and keep mold from growing, some of the produce, they spray it. And so before it comes to us, it has Roundup in it. And he was alluding to that can increase the risk of liver changes that can lead to cirrhosis and maybe even liver cancer, and also non-Hodgkin's lymphoma has been linked to that, and that's the lawsuit he's talking about. So some of the environmental working group did a study on this glyphosate, or the Roundup, and residues in oats, and they just looked at oats at one thing, but oat cereals, like Quaker Oats and all the cereal Cheerios and all the things that we give our kids was found to have significant levels of Roundup in it, or glyphosate. So we need to know that. But the ones that were found to have zero or none were the organic. There were, I think one study said out of 45 samples, 43 had glyphosates in it, and 16 of them were organic, but usually the organic was lower or zero. But I just want us to know, but it's not just oats. I think on the list is almonds. So if I eat almonds or almond butter, you want to get organic. I think apples was on there, and peaches, and I think apricots, and it's alarming, as Dr. Palmer said. It's just think about these things that we're not aware of in our food.
That's a great point. Great point. Any comments, Dr. Palmer?
Yeah, I mean, every time I don't want to discourage the audience, but every time, we think of another level of, I need to think about that, there's another level, because, we say organics. I remember a while ago, I read a book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, by Michael Pollan. And this was years ago when I read it, and he explained the definition of organic, that is USDA organic. And in our mind, we have a tendency to think that organic means grown with nothing, that is clean, and that's how people reference it. But that's not the USDA organic definition of organic. Their definition has more so to do with only using products and items that they have approved, and it's a certain percentage of it that allows them to get a stamp, the USDA stamp on it. And then there can be another percentage of it that allows you to say made with organic ingredients. So it's a little bit more detailed than what we actually intuitively think that it is. And then also, I don't know if people know, people have worked in the grocery stores, then there's the level of people saying, well, that organic banana might be labeled, the conventional one might be labeled organic because you don't know what they're doing in the back. And people who work in the grocery store say that happens a lot too. So, it just keeps, the steps keep going up to say, we don't know what we're getting when we go into a grocery store. And I'm not saying to let your mind go that far. But again, growing at least one or two things at home will kind of guarantee that you get something that you know every step that it went through before it went into your body.
Yeah, the whole aspect of labeling things can be tricky because, like you said, they'll put a label on it, and then there'll be a connotation of what we think that label means, but the underlying definition of what's on that label can be much different. And so, and the excellent points.
And non-GMO doesn't mean organic and grown organically. A lot of things are stated or have a label non-GMO, but doesn't mean it's grown without pesticides or herbicides.
Yeah, that's a good point. Non-GMO, and then you have like the watermelon that's organic, seedless watermelon. It's like, okay, yeah, it's organic, it doesn't have seeds, so there's something wrong with it.
Right. So we want the one with seeds. We want it with seeds. I mean, convenience. They are making it without seeds. But when I travel to Costa Rica, their watermelon has seeds. But in the United States, when you get a watermelon, it's hard to find one with seeds.
I know. I hadn't had watermelon all watermelon season. Couldn't find them with seeds. Anyway, let's look at this next video.
Off the labeling law, so now you can go get a wild-caught GMO salmon, which is, as you can see in the picture here, how big it is. We don't have any long-term studies on the genetic modification of an animal species that have been consumed by humans or what it's going to do to the environment when that has the effect itself on the environmental aspects. In my book, we'll cover things like meat glue, right? So how do we get steak so cheap? When I was a kid, again, I used to go to a restaurant, and it'd be something very expensive. I'd look over the side, and we'd see someone eating a steak, and they were dressed really nice. I'm like, wow. Wow, they must be, they're higher class. They were able to eat this, or they would go Ruth Chris Steakhouse and stuff like this. But now when you go to the steakhouses, you can get all-you-can-eat steak and shrimp for $7.99. How is that possible? Because we use things like meat glue. We get all the scraps of any of the meat products. We put this, it's an enzyme that comes from pig's blood and cow blood. We sprinkle it as a powder, we wrap it in cellophane, and then we refrigerate it 6 hours later. It becomes a nice log, and we chop it up in steaks and serve it. Same thing with chicken thighs, and same thing with pork products, okay? I won't cover the chicken today, I won't cover the beef, there's a lot of things, but even what we have here is modified atmospheric packaging. It's how they can take red meats now, like beef, ground beef, and then we actually put it in the cellophane packaging of using carbon dioxide or monoxide, which makes the blood of the tissue there more pink and red. So that's what we think of fresh. But it can keep the food after it's spoiled up to 2 weeks. Now the studies show up to 2 years. Right? So how many people are like, oh, I take this, I cook this, I got sick, I got diarrhea, I eat the same thing. Well, what is it, And people are not eating it raw, they're cooking it, right? So here's another example, and then we'll get on. But 5 billion burgers consumed, and people are like, oh, I need my all-beef patty, Dr. Pie. All-beef patty. I used to be like, same thing, again, massage therapy. And the studies showed through the Annals of Diagnostic Pathology, this is a forensics journal, medical journal, that they took and analyzed the meat content in the top 8 fast food chains, and they found it basically had between 2 and 14%. That means 85% to 98% of your all-beef patty is not meat. Shocking, right? So what that means, if you had 2 quarter-pounder cheeseburgers, that's 5 grams of meat protein, which is 5 paper clips worth. Right? So you have to really start thinking like, well, why are we so sick? Because when you were children and you ate this food, you didn't get sick. We didn't get obese, and we didn't have all these inflammatory conditions because your food is not what it is, right? It can't be cheaper than, when I was a kid, a piece of bacon or something that was added was more expensive. You had to pay $1 or $2 extra. And now it's like you're getting 3 patties with 6 pieces of bacon for $1, right? Even in my book, we'll cover the hot dog report. The hot dog report is something that everybody should be shocked about because everybody's like, oh, I have ballpark, or this is kosher. One thing that you need to know, whether it's a animal product or even a veggie dog, because they all have to be processed in the same facility to make hot dogs, is that the studies show that across like 12 top major brands that you get at the health food store and at the supermarket, it contains 2% of human DNA. That's not a side little chili finger. That's actually an ingredient now. So you got to think of, like, for those who are older here, Soylent Green, and for those who are younger, Cloud Atlas, and that will give you some ideas. So what does this get us? 1 out of 4 people get sick, 328,000 people go to the hospital, 23,000 Americans die from eating food in America. I'm not talking about some third world, fourth world country. I'm talking about the United States here. 100% of store meat now contains, by USDA reports and consumer groups, 100% of that has bacteria in it, E. coli, salmonella. So that's why if you eat this stuff, you gotta make sure it's cooked. Okay. Some of it has cysts and parasites. Some of them have ammonia from the pink slime and the washing of that. If you don't know what that is, don't look that up before you go eat tonight. Meat now contains 2 to 5 antibiotic-resistant bacteria. So there's another doctor probably talking this week talking about superbugs and resistant things. This is a huge problem, people. Because people now, there are some people who have never taken antibiotics, they get sick, they go to the hospital, and now we give them all these things that doesn't work. It's because the food has been given the antibiotics over and over and over again. And remember, infections that are like E. coli and those things come from inside of the animal's gut. Vegetables do not have E. coli. They don't have listeria. They don't have salmonella. The contamination comes from a factory farm, or a CAFO as we call them, and that actually spills down the water stream. Right now, just a couple of days ago, this administration, I'm going to get political, but they passed a bill to remove the Clean Water Act, right, which protects our rivers and our streams and our lakes. So now we can dump these things. And so if you're an organic farmer and you're growing your vegetables and this comes onto your property and you didn't take it to the market, people will get sick.
Okay, there we have it. So interesting comments. I hope you all have been helping with these comments on the side. A lot of questions and comments I want us to get to. Somebody asked a question. Oh boy. Somebody asked a question, want to start their garden, what should they start with? Okay, I think it's Karen Evans. Let's see here. Now, if I want to start my own garden, how do I go about buying the best soil? Say, okay, I think we've answered that with composting. But someone said they're going to start their own. Hi, great topic. Let's see here. If I were to start growing 2-3 vegetables, any recommendation on which ones are the best to start with? Thank you. Any thoughts on that?
You need to look up the seasons. That's number one.
Great point.
Yeah.
So it depends on when you start growing and what are the best in the season. But there's a couple of random seasons here in the U.S. I mean, in the Houston area that would be your favorites. Or let's say, for instance, go ahead and give the context that, hey, if it's in season, then this, and this would be what I'd recommend.
So, I mean, I think we all kind of know fall season is our greens. And down here in Texas, where we are, mustard greens grow pretty easily, along with, I think up north, like in Virginia, collard greens grow more easily. So depending on what regionally too, things grow a little bit better. Not that it won't grow, but you'll have better success if you're a beginner. Somebody put that squash is very prolific. Also, this time of year in the summer, okra grows plentifully in Texas in this area. So it is very regional. And then, of course, spring is our fruits. Now, down here, we don't really, when I say fruit, I'm talking about what we consider fruit, because technically anything that has a flower is a fruit by definition. So okra is technically a fruit too. But when I say fruit, I'm talking about our apples and things of this
things, yeah.
They typically grow in other regions. So if you try to grow that here, like I tried to grow strawberry down here, it didn't work. Some things you just learn. It's kind of a little bit trial and error. And then I think herbs will grow pretty easily, probably year round. So if you're just starting out, probably an herb garden will be the easiest thing to do. Yeah.
And Bev Kelly, she mentions this play Roots and Refuge on YouTube. I looked it up, and they have a YouTube show. So if you have time to write that down, look them up. I haven't seen that YouTube show. I'm going to look at it, but I think that's where she got the information about the soil in a bag. So it sounds like they have a number of great tips. Let's see, herb gardens, we mentioned that. Any other questions y'all see?
Somebody had asked the question earlier about the numbers on the produce.
Oh, yes.
So
yes, you want to address that, Dr. Atkins, Dr. Palmer?
Go ahead, Dr.
Well, definitely the 9s that starts with a 9 or organically grown, and so you want to look for the 9 for organically grown. So otherwise, you may see 4 and other numbers which are not organically grown. And I think I think is it 4 numbers is GMO or something? I can't remember.
8 at the beginning is GMO.
Okay, but it's 4 digits or 5 digits? I can't remember, but it's GMO. But you said 8 at the beginning?
Yes.
8's the first number. Okay.
Yes.
But so that's good to know, and definitely, your viewers are all over the country, and some in other countries. But we have to know the growing season in our region and what. So if you go to farm and feed stores and you can find organic soil, or you can ask about things like that, or there are local gardeners that have websites or gardening clubs and things like that.
Yes, and then and as people are indicating, there's a lot of information on YouTube of people that specialize in gardening. There's one on Crystal's Texas Garden. Again, I've never seen these, so I can't, this is just coming from my viewers, but I think it's worth looking at and seeing what you can grow. So again, from this last video, or both of them together, gives a message of what's done. And the second video talks about the games they play. And I think what's important, and we've alluded to this, is that don't rely on labels. When you look at food, it says, healthy, natural, or whatever, even, organic, has certain meanings. If it's 100% organic versus organic or whatever, or other labels. We have to get to the nuts and bolts of our food, and we need to do our best to know where it comes from. Now, there's certain limitations that we all have in our capabilities at this point in time, but our limitations, or those barriers, I should say, to our limitations, start to be broken once we start to conceive something in our minds. And so if we conceive in our minds that, hey, it's my goal to eat a very nutritious, healthy, minimally processed plant-based diet, and that's my mission, then your mind is going to lead you to, doing that. Now, lack of time, lack of money, lack of whatever are not barriers, but hurdles. And you'll figure out how to get over those hurdles if you create the determination to move forward and optimize what you put in your system. I forgot who mentioned that. I flashed it on the screen and said we need to take control of what we eat. I think it was Black and Silver. Yes, we need to take some of our dependency back. They're going to control more what we eat. So, it's interesting how they make that. Black and Silver makes that statement, because think of it when you're a baby. You're very dependent upon, your parents and what they feed you. They feed you nourishing foods, you're going to be well nourished. They feed you trash, you're going to be trashed. And if you think about it, even those of us who are adults and we just grab what's there, whether we're grabbing what's there at the restaurant, we eat subconsciously. We may grab what's there at the supermarket, grab what's there at the restaurant. We become addicted to these things. And in a way, we lose our dependency. We've had situations, and both of you are aware of it, in the Houston area, we had hurricanes and supermarkets shut down. And a lot of people who are addicted to all these foods they eat, the supermarket, fast food place shut down. Fights break out. When they have, these shortages of fast food places, runs out of shortage of fried chicken sandwiches. People get killed. And so, it's a problem, because there's a dependency. It's almost like a drug-like dependency at one level with these chemicalized foods that we become addicted to, and sort of a need-based dependency, because we don't know how to grow our own food. We don't know how to procure our own food locally. So if they shut down or temporarily shut things down, then it's like our lifelines cut off. So that I like that word dependency that Black and Silver use, because it really cuts to at least a big part of the core of what we're talking about. So interesting there. Any other comments or questions? I don't want to.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing, and this is kind of my soapbox a little bit. So there was a lot of talk about the watermelon on the side over here, and the fact that you have to search for seeded watermelon is a crime. And also the search for any seeded grapes is, I haven't seen a seeded grape, and I haven't eaten grapes in years for that reason, because it just doesn't make sense. And it seems like people don't understand that that's a problem. And so what happens is, going into the future, the children won't know that there is a difference, just like many of us don't realize that bananas are actually supposed to have seeds in them also. But since all of our lives, bananas have never had seeds in it, that doesn't make sense to us. So we don't even think about it like that. Now, I know that, farming has changed, and they change certain things and they hybridize certain things, but now they are just removing the seeds. The seeds contain information. And I mean, this is getting more into kind of other areas of science, but it is not good for them to continue to remove seeds from our food. I actually talked to a watermelon farmer one time and asked him, what's the difference in the way that a seeded watermelon grows and a seedless watermelon grows? And he explained to me, this is somebody who's been growing watermelon for years, that the seedless watermelon have shallow roots that sit kind of on the top of the ground, and the seeded ones have deeper roots that go down. And so if you understand the whole purpose of us eating is to get these nutrients from the earth into our system, then when you eat seedless fruit, you're only entertaining your tongue. It's lacking the nutrients. So and that is what, that's what I want people to understand, is that what they're feeding us lacks nutrients, which means we're wasting. It's a wasted meal. And so that is a problem.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, and the life is in the seeds, and so there's been an orchestrated effort to make seeds not as available, and I understand that is a concern. When they started with genetically modifying soy and corn, which is most of it is, at least I would say at least 75% is genetically modified in the United States, that the farmers have to keep buying seeds from these companies like Dow or Monsanto, because the seeds, the GMO seeds don't produce, you don't get seeds to be able to grow again. And so it makes it more dependent on the chemical companies. So it's a concern in the hybridization of foods to remove the seeds and things like that. So I agree with what Dr. Celeste is saying. It is a concern. So that's why we need to go to local growers.
More powerful hearing this message, just sort of hearing you guys talk about it, hearing us talk about it, makes me even more motivated. Someone's asking about this Monsanto own all the seeds. I don't think they do, but they're trying to. And so, I think it's something that we need to be mindful of and be conscious of it. One thing, that whole level of consciousness is important. And I talked to a lot of my patients, as when you go and eat, you maybe go to a meeting or whatever, it's, people just put food in their mouths and they don't think about it. They're not conscious of it. And what we're talking about is having an even deeper level of consciousness about your food. It's one thing to be conscious of what you're eating. Okay, this is, fried chicken, so I shouldn't eat that. This is, maybe steamed broccoli or raw broccoli salad, I should eat that. So I'm conscious not to eat this, but eat this. But then that next level of consciousness, okay, yeah, I'm going to eat this, but where did this come from? Okay, it looks green and it looks like a vegetable, a plant. But, Mr. Broccoli, tell me about your background. Tell me about your childhood. Who are your folks? My Mrs. Broccoli and, Mr. Broccoli. I'm from the, East Broccoli fan. So I want to know more about your food. And these kind of questions need to be asked. And so I think it's just a matter of having a deeper level of consciousness about our food. So let's see here. Barbie said there are thousands of seed banks in the world, supposedly for doomsday. Wow. So I'm going to encourage one thing, one action we can all take. you certainly cannot. And I'm going to do this myself. And I think, we probably should have a conference email among ourselves. One thing we could all do is we can start buying organic heirloom seeds. If anybody knows any source of organic heirloom seeds, put it in the chat right now to share with everybody else who's on the chat. And, we're going to write those down. And in the next, comment show, we're going to be sharing that information about organic heirloom seeds. So, yeah, let's do that, and let's get that, information out. So, anybody have that information now? Share that to see Team Green Acres. Hold on, let me see here. Oh my goodness, Team Green Acres Family Farm. There's a link. Do they have seeds? I'm gonna put that in my email. Team Green Acres Family Farm. Because one thing we can do is we can start to store seeds, and then you may not be able to grow it today or tomorrow, but you have access to the seeds, and someone who can grow it for you. One thing, I've had an issue with time with growing, so I may actually, contract someone to come and grow and maintain my garden in my yard. Mega Gardener, Rare Seeds, and Eden Brothers. Are we writing? Can y'all write those down? Let me write those down, because I want us to collect that. So listen, there's a call to action to anybody who's seeing this live or seeing this on recording. Let's get this information. At the very least, you can store seeds. I don't care if it's a huge amount in a warehouse or a small amount, but because seeds can be sprouted, you can grow sprouts and microgreens and things like that. So you don't need a big yard, and you can go a long time. So a lot of people preparing for doomsday. I'm not saying, we're having doomsday tomorrow, but you never know when doomsday is going to hit. It doesn't, send you an invitation or a warning. But there are a lot of ear hustler, Team Green Family Acres Farms, Ice Age Farmer, Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. Y'all get these, and then we can email it among ourselves. And what I'll do is I'll create a list. We'll stay on for another 30 seconds to get something. This is are y'all growing your own food yet? Don't wait till the stores are empty again. Contact the backyard garden. Okay. And I'm going to put some of this on the screen so whoever's looking at this on recording can see it. So here's at Ear Hustler, the air is polluted. Let's see, Team Green Acres Family Farms, can probably get seeds there. Ice Age Farmer. Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. We're writing that down. So I'm just putting it on the screen so anybody who's looking at the video can see this and get this information. So, yeah, I think this is pretty good. And so we will leave this show on a positive note with good information, a call to action. So if you're on this, write as many of these down as you can. Go online, look and see how you can purchase and store seeds. You can at least do that. You have a shoebox, a closet, store as much as you can. That's the first step, I think. Any other thoughts, any other closing remarks before we close out, Dr. Atkins?
Well, heirloom seeds are wonderful because they go back, centuries, back, I'm happy to see those resources and we can look into that. But and just to encourage our family members and those with children, that the more you see things on commercials and on TV, those are the foods that are more processed. And so the healthier foods you will not see on TV. So decrease the amount of television your children are watching, even adults, because we are influenced by what we see on television, on commercials to purchase.
Yeah, you can argue TV is a bad food in of itself. So somebody asked what are heirloom seeds. Dr. Atkins just answered that. They're seeds that go back into the origin of the food. And so that's a good question. Dr. Palmer, any comments?
Just to piggyback after Dr. Atkins, seeds are information. And from generation to generation, they carry valuable information into the future. So just as we as humans are generational, plants are also generational. And so we want that information, and we kind of, this is where human and plant life and everything is one. And I know I don't want to get too mystical here, but it's all one, and they do the same thing that we do. And so kind of tweaking with them is at the same time messing around with them and taking their seeds out and doing that does the same thing to our body. It tweaks with our body. It removes our seeds, and now fertility and other things become an issue. So you have to think about it on that level too. I know that I don't want to go too deep into those areas, but when we are messing around with our food and modifying our food, we're also messing around with our human bodies and modifying our human bodies into something that we probably don't want to be in the future.
It's okay to go deep. We're not on CNN, so we can go deep. If you want to go deep, go deep. I mean, the thing is that's what we're here for. It's uncut, unscripted. Karen Evans mentioned this documentary. I want to at least get is this on Netflix, Karen? Where can we see this documentary? Y'all know about this, Need to Grow?
No.
I'm not aware. The Need to Grow.
Yeah, it's a documentary. Predicts that's something we need to do. We may even put this in. So we'll put together a resource on the seeds. If Karen comes back in time, even after we go off air, we can see some of the comments. And if we find out whether Mary McCoy says she saw it, but she didn't tell us where. Mary, where'd you see it? I mean, where is it on Netflix, Mary? You're on you say you saw it, but you're not going to tell us where. Okay. So, our listeners are holding secrets. That's all right. It must be getting late.
No, I think they're on a little bit of a delay. I think she's probably coming.
Probably. And I'll see it when we come up. I'll see you guys backstage. And this has been an enlightening show. As always, I learned stuff. And the other part about it, is, when I hear this information, I live in this space and I'm constantly coaching and counseling people. But the nice thing about this, when I hear this, I get some extra motivation. So there's an aspect of hearing and then acting on it and then receiving it. So we gain some level of experiential knowledge. It's one thing to be cognizant of something, but it's another thing to really experience it. So you hear it, you act on it, you do it, you start to live it, and then you gain a multiple dimensional aspect of knowing something. I often tell people, sometimes, people come in and say, well, I know what I need to eat, I just don't do it. But, knowing and not doing is the same as not knowing. And so we need to start to act on these things. And many of the barriers we have are not barriers, but hurdles. And we need to see them as hurdles and not barriers. And then we have to come up with a strategy of how we're going to hurdle. The hurdler is running a race. They've got hurdles in front of them, but they're looking at the finish line. And they have a strategy for going over each hurdle. And that's what we need to do, have a strategy for going over each hurdle. So, again, thank you for joining us. I know we went over today, but if you found that this has been helpful, please subscribe. This message really needs to go viral. Hit the thumbs up, show us some love. Also, there's a thank you button by the screen. You feel free to donate to the channel. We use these donations to go toward our research. We got some upcoming research coming in. In fact, I'll probably do a show on the study that we will have coming up pretty soon. So, I want you to take this message, but not only just listen to what we're saying, but start to act on what we're saying. But until next time, keep it fresh, natural, and live.